Hi folks, I thought I'd do a little physiology of the finger in relationship to the whole body so that you can understand how yoga postures work. So let's imagine that this is a mini representation of your body without arms. So you've got the head here, that joint, that would be your head and your neck. The second part here would be the torso, and the last joint down from the knuckle down would be the legs. And of course, in this case, the finger connects to the rest of the arm. You can imagine, if you want to get philosophical, that your body also connects to the rest of the earth as well, even though you can walk around on it. But back to the body here. So when we bend in this direction, that would be like you folding forward. If you were standing up and you bent forward to tie your shoes, that's called flexion. Now notice when my finger joints collapse against each other like that, they can't go any further than that. The skin and the muscle in the finger is compressing against itself. So that's as far as I can go. My finger can go in a forward fold, of course, for obvious reasons. That's the same for us. When you fold forward, you might have tension back here for a lot of people. This might be tight, so you can't get down that far. So as you stretch in yoga, you'll eventually be able to stretch out most of these tissues and increase the ability to fold forward like that. But for many of us, because we don't do that a lot, those muscles and the skin and everything else that connect the tissue doesn't need to be particularly long, so it's tight when we do that. So one of the things yoga does is stretch. We can go in the opposite direction. It's hard for me to go back very far with just the muscles of my finger, but if I use some leverage, I can push my finger back into extension. So this would be flexion, and then this would be extension. So if you were standing up and you lean back and looked up, you're leaning back and you're also stretching the front side of your body, and you're collapsing a little bit in the back side of the body. So this would be a flexion, and this would be an extension. Now, each joint here, representing part of the body, could be tight. So if we look at the first joint, we think, well, it moves pretty well forward. It doesn't have much play. It doesn't go back very far at all. And what about if we just isolate the second joint? It moves forward pretty well into flexion, but if we try to extend it, it doesn't go very far. What about the last joint? It goes forward pretty well, and it goes back a great deal. So most of my range of motion in my finger, if I talk about the whole finger, is happening down at this one joint here and not so much at these two. So that's the way we can kind of break apart anatomically how the body works. And if there's an area that's tight, say, well, this doesn't have the range of, well, let's not call it tight, let's say range of motion. It doesn't have the same range of motion as the base knuckle here. So is it possible for me to increase my range of motion? And I can do that, and I do get a little bit of a stretch here, but after a certain point, the bones inside the finger just press against each other, and that won't allow my finger to bend back any further than that. I'm not really feeling tension here. It's not tight particularly. I just can't go back any further than that, and that is the same in our spine and in the rest of our body as well. So we have ranges of motion. We have different ranges of motion in different parts of our joints, different joints, but every joint is going to be a little bit different in your own body in terms of its range of motion, and compared to another body, you could have somebody else's finger up here that would have more or less range of motion than mine. So that's just a quick overview using the finger to illustrate some physiology.